Hello, everyone. This is Sivu, your IELTS trainer. We will be starting in, let me check the time again. We'll be starting in 10 minutes' time. I joined in a bit early to make sure everyone can see me and hear me well. And let me go to the chat box and see. So we got some participants here. Can you hear me well, guys? It would be great if you can respond to me. So oh, yes, I can. Cinderella, thank you very much for your response. And Muhammad Ali, thank you very much. And since I can't read Cyrillic, well, all of you, and Mehmet from Turkey, and so Cinderella is apparently Shafak. Wonderful. And Eugene and Hikuran, lovely. We've got some people from Serbia as well. Lovely, lovely, great. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be starting in 10 minutes' time. And on tonight's show, we will be discussing the top tips about the IELTS exam. Today is going to be a general session, and we'll be addressing to the 4 parts of the tests briefly. I hope you will benefit it as much as you can. And apparently we have no technical problems. And I'm also fully charged in case something happens. And all good, all good. So I'll be seeing you in 9 minutes' time. Ladies and gentlemen, hello. I've been, here reading all your messages, and it's almost time. Again, I just want to make sure everyone can hear me well. Please let me know if you guys can hear me well. I don't want any problems before we start. Well, actually, I want to make sure all works well. Yes, we can. Great. Hekuran says yes. Asalboni and yeah, lovely, lovely, lovely. Great. I think we are ready to go. Now, I would like to tell you a few things before we actually start the webinar. I'm going to talk about the top tips and very useful information about the IELTS test today. And as my colleagues have just said, I want to ask you to leave the questions till the end of the webinar. And the reason is I already have an FAQ slide, frequently asked questions slide after each test. So this webinar specifically is designed to help you with the IELTS exam and answer all your questions. So I've already thought of some questions and thought of some things to share with you. So please wait till the end until I'm done, and then I'll be here longer to answer your questions if I haven't answered them during the presentation. That's all I ask. I hope that makes sense. And also, I would be following your comments and maybe questions from the chat box. So I also want you to use the chat box wisely, so it would be easy for me to follow you guys and make sure all the comments are read and all the questions are answered. All right. Having said that, I would like to say hello again and welcome you to the British Council's Success in IELTS webinar. I'm Civil and I'm your IELTS trainer today. In today's session, as I've just said, we're going to cover useful information and top tips about the IELTS test. Are you all ready? If so, we can start. Yep, wonderful. All right, so here's a very brief slide. IELTS is, of course, the international English language testing system, and it is jointly owned by the British Council and 2 other institutions. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. Right, let me go through the slide very quickly. Right, what is IELTS? I'm going to give you brief information about the IELTS test here. IELTS is an internationally recognized and respected test. It tests your ability to communicate in English language. It's either for work or for study reasons. It is designed to assess your 4 abilities, which are obviously listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And IELTS results range from band scores of 9 to 0. I'm sure most of you are already familiar with this. And please don't forget, IELTS is an international testing system. All accents are welcome and there are no cultural or linguistic bias. Let me see, and variety of accents are used as well, especially in the listening test. Be prepared to hear a variety of accents, not only British, to remind you there. Right, next slide, please. Why choose IELTS? Well, more than 2.5 million candidates take the IELTS exam every year, and currently it is the most popular English test around the world. It is recognized by over 10,000 organizations globally, and the accessibility of the test is one of the advantages for our candidates. Paper-based format, I have to say, is another advantage. Most of my students say that they are more familiar with paper-based exams, and that's one of the reasons why they prefer to take the IELTS. And as many of you might already know, there are 2 different modules, 2 different versions of the test, the academic module and the general training module. And today we're going to cover both modules so everyone can learn about the module they're interested in. Hello, everyone. Can you please? So one of the participants says, "Can you please send me all this on an email? Do you want me to send you a personal email about the everything I'm talking about?" All right. Hello, Kahoot from Ukraine, and let's see which IELTS is best for me. Right, let's have a look at this. Before deciding which module you will take, it is a good idea to check with the receiving organization. However, I can confidently say to further your studies at postgraduate or undergraduate level, you will need to take the academic module. And to further your studies at secondary level and to live in an English-speaking country, you need to take the general training module. And here, I would like to ask you a question. We can either start a poll. If not, you can just write your answers in the chat box. What module are you planning to take? Just to get to know you better. Oh, right, here's a poll question. There you are. Are you planning to take IELTS Academic or IELTS General Training? Interesting. I cannot see any votes, but maybe I will. So far, it's just the blank. Oh, and now it disappeared from my screen. Interesting. So Billy says I voted. All right. Thank you very much, guys. I've just seen the results. Thank you. Right. Okay. So, wow. Actually, we're going almost 50-50. Yeah, 52% is taking the academic and the rest is general training and no vote. So I will make sure I spend equally time on both modules of the test. Thank you very much for the results. Oh, yeah. Now my colleagues have just shared something with me. I know that the poll has to be finished, but I sometimes see some changes on the screen as the participants vote. Today I have seen nothing. That's why I was worried and I thought something was wrong, but it's all good, all good. And so Omar Faruk says academic is very important to him. So good luck with your exam. And I hope this webinar is very useful to you, Omar Faruk. Right. Thank you very much for your votes. I think I've said that. Let's move on, guys. And let me see. Let me put the chat box a bit further to the right so I'll see the full presentation. Great. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's let's talk about the modules a bit more in detail. As you can see on the slide, the listening test is the same. And as you see, they're both in purple color in both tests, so is the speaking. The listening test is the same regardless of whether you're talking about the academic or the general training module. The speaking test is also in the same format. However, that doesn't mean that every single question will be the same. The reading and writing tests, however, on each module are slightly different. I will talk about the differences in detail later in the presentation. And listening, reading, writing, speaking, and of course the timing. Let's not forget to mention the timing of the test. IELTS test takes 2 hours 44 minutes plus 10 minutes transfer time, which will be given to you to all candidates at the end of the listening test. And now, I want to pass IELTS for immigration purposes. Which IELTS test should I pass? Again, it depends. Annie, you need to double check with the receiving organization. For some countries, it might change depending on your work, depending on the reasons you're applying for this immigration. So please double check. And Akirka, it will not be saved, but you will be receiving a copy of this session tomorrow. So you can listen to me as many times as you like, and you will be seeing the presentation at the same time. I hope that helps. And let me see. Oh, actually, can we go back to the exactly, thank you very much, to the IELTS 9-band scale. Now, sure, Annie, no problems. As we have already covered, IELTS results range from band scores of 9 to 0, and the IELTS 9-band system is used to measure and report scores in a consistent manner. Examiners are trained in line with globally accepted standards to ensure consistency and, of course, equality of their assessments. I will not focus too much on the band scores today, but if you would like to get further information, you can always reach public versions of the band descriptors on takeielts.britishcouncil.org. Don't you forget. And there could be another poll question. If yes, let's go for it. If not, I can also ask you this on the chat. So Olga says, hi from Olga. I haven't heard people reporting that they had a manufacturing process recently for their writing task 1. Has it been deleted as a task? Well, process charts, Olga, may come up. It is not as common as the as bar graphs and line graphs and pie charts. It is more rare, but it may come. There are no certain changes to the exam at the moment. So what is your IELTS score? Target IELTS score, actually. I'm not panicking this time. I'm waiting for the scores. So, wow. 47% of you would like to achieve 6 and above. 6 to 7.5. Wow. So, guys, in order to do this, you need to be listening to me very carefully. You need to be asking very cool, very relevant questions to make sure you understand the system and the expectations perfectly. Lovely. Thank you very much for your votes. And the test report form, I think I've just, I remember. So guys, we refer to this as the TRFs, the test report forms. After you take your IELTS exam, you will be sent one personal copy of the test report form. Maximum 5 digital copies of the TRFs, test report forms, may be sent to you. Or to the organizations you're planning to apply. If you would like to get more than 5, it is still possible. There might be some extra charges though. I will change these location again. Okay, next slide, please. Now the 4 modules: listening, reading, writing, and speaking, and what to expect. Now, I'm an English teacher. And I've been doing this job for more than 14 years, almost 15. And I've taught IELTS for the same amount of years. So I want to say that if you would, as a teacher, as a very friendly teacher, if you would like to get a good score in IELTS, you really need to understand the format of the 4 tests, what is expected of you, and the grading criteria. In other words, how you will be assessed, how your work will be evaluated. Your job, I think, will be much easier if you know these. And before we move on to the next slide, I've got one more full question to ask. I would like to know what part of the test you find most difficult. Listening, reading, writing, or speaking. And I'm patiently waiting for the results. And I have some notes for the rest of the webinar. I'm organizing my notes at the same time. Right. So I need to be talking about these. Lovely. Wow. Writing is again the winner. Why doesn't that surprise me? And my My colleagues are reminding that all webinar participants will receive the presentation afterwards. Perfect. Lovely. All right, guys, thank you very much for the votes again. And I think we can start now. So let's start with the speaking, shall we? Now, I'm going to start with an overview of the speaking module, and I will try to follow the same format for the other tests too. I will always start with a general overview to give you the nitty-gritty, the facts. Right. The speaking test takes 11 to 14 minutes. And I think the face-to-face nature of the IELTS speaking test is definitely an advantage for our candidates. It is as close to a real-life situation as a test can possibly get. Your speaking, don't forget, will be recorded throughout the test. This is not only to assess your speaking skills, but also to make sure you get the fairest assessment of your speaking abilities, which is very important to us. And you will be assessed on, now, what are the criteria? The assessment criteria are fluency and accuracy, vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. These are the 4 criteria. And then we would average the marks, and that will give you your final speaking grade. Now, what is test report? Test report is the report form, TRF as we refer to it, is the report that shows your IELTS score. You will be sharing this test report form with the schools you are planning to apply to, with the immigration offices you're planning to go to. So that's test report form. And let's go to the next slide, please. The speaking test format, right. The IELTS speaking test is divided into 3 sections. Part 1 is the introduction, or general questions, I would say. Part 2, long term, or Q card. We might refer to it as Q card 2. And part 3 is the analytical discussion part. Now, in part 1, ladies and gentlemen, questions are quite general, and you should be able to find something to say, even though you're not interested in the topic. A good tip would be prepared to talk about your family and your house, hobbies, holidays, personal things like that. And please be prepared to give extended answers rather than one word or short answers. Part 2, you will be given a task card and which you cannot change. Then you will have 1 minute to think, to prepare, and if you wish to, you can take notes as well. And you will be expected to speak about this topic for 1 to 2 minutes. In part 3, you'll be discussing more abstract aspects of the topic from part 2 with your examiner, of course. That is all about part 1, part 2, and part 3 for now. Let's move on, please. Thank you very much. Guys, I thought it would be a good idea to show you some sample questions. And on this slide, you can see a sample part 1 question. Please have a look. I would also read. Part 1, the examiner asked the candidate about him, herself, his or home, work or studies, and other familiar topics. Then the question comes, television. How often do you watch television? Why not? Which television channel do you usually watch? Why? Do you enjoy the advertisements on television? Do you think most programs on television are good? Why not? All right, that is a real IELTS part 1 question. And as you might agree, I hope you do, this question does not require too many strategies, preparation, or prior knowledge. And on the next slide, let's see, sample part 2 and part 3 questions here. Again, I would like to read it first. For part 2, describe a friend of your family you remember from your childhood. You should say who the person was, how your family knew this person, how often this person visited your family, explain why you remember this person. And for part 3, as I said, your part 2 and part 3 questions will be linked. What do you think makes someone a good friend to a whole family? Do you think we meet different kinds of a friend at different stages of our lives? In what ways these types of friends different? How, and last one, how easy is it to make friends with people from a different age group? And guys, as you see, you only need to think and focus on producing your ideas, your thoughts, and put them into good sentences. As I said for part one as well, IELTS speaking questions do not require many strategies, preparation, or prior knowledge. So this is very important. It's Olga. Now I got a question here. It's Olga. Could you please tell me how many people check the writing tasks? Could you please also outline what is generally, we have not come to the writing part yet. I will try to remember this question when I start talking about the writing section, Olga. And then we can move on to the next slide, I think. You had enough time to go through the items on the previous slide. Now, speaking tips to remember. Guys, I've done do's and don'ts, and you see them both on the slide. Actually, I prepared two different slides, but my colleagues have done a great job putting them, squeezing them into one, and I think it looks great. Now, you have some time to, or I mean, just have a look at the items on this slide. As you go, I would like to read something. Now, guys, where are my notes? Right there. So Dennis says, hi, are we asked these questions one by one? Of course, yes. This is in the form of a discussion, Denise. You're not supposed to memorize anything. No. Absolutely not. Right. IELTS Band 7, speaking band descriptor for fluency and coherence. In other words, in order to reach Band 7 in fluency and coherence criterion, this is what it says. The candidate speaks, this is the expectation. This is what you should be doing to get Band 7. The candidate speaks at length without noticeable effort or loss of coherence, may demonstrate language-related hesitation at times, or some repetition, and or self-correction. So, it means it is okay to make mistakes, and it is okay to correct yourself while speaking. People make mistakes while they're speaking in their native language. This is perfectly acceptable. All you need to do is to focus, to relax, and focus on your communication. Speak clearly and elaborate your answers. In other words, give extended answers. These are very important. And speaking from experience, please do not try to memorize large portions of speech to repeat during the test. This undoubtedly adds unnecessary stress and sounds super unnatural. We do not recommend this approach at all. And do not try to speak faster in order to sound more fluent. It doesn't work. It will result in blocking your communication with your examiner, and again, it won't sound natural. Don't forget, English is the only communication language, and do not use your first language, well, unless it's English. And please don't worry about your mistakes, as long as they're not systematic mistakes, as long as they do not block your communication with the examiner, you should be fine. Don't worry about this. Are the examiners native speakers? Most of the time, yes, but I have many amazing colleagues who are from the local country, and they are English teachers, and they're very good at their job. What if it's hard to produce the answer even in the mother tongue? Alex, I suggest you do your best, and you do not need to sound like a native speaker. As long as your accent is clear, as long as the examiner understands you at ease, you should be fine. And remember, one more thing before I finish. Remember, it isn't the number of grammatical mistakes that matters, but how seriously these mistakes block your communication. So again, I don't mind saying it again. Focus on your communication. Focus on expressing yourself the best as you can. All right, and now I think it's the FAQs. Oh, right, exactly. Now. Let me see. Guys, I've listed 3 frequently asked questions here. If you have more, just wait until the end of the webinar and I will be answering them. I took a sip of water, by the way, sorry. And I will answer them at the end. Now, let's have a look. How can candidates improve their speaking? Well. Listening to a wide range of authentic English materials will help you a great deal, I believe. First, it will help you become familiar with more words, phrases, as well as pronunciation features. And these are vitally important while improving any language, really. Listening to, say, BBC Radio, lectures, podcasts is always a good idea. Start working on subjects that interest you first and then move on with others. And one more thing, most of my students think it works well. Recording yourself while speaking and listening to it later is something I suggest my students. While speaking, try to practice what you learn from the listenings. And while you're listening to yourself, pay attention to your fluency, pauses, hesitations, choice of words. So in contrast to traditional disclaimers, there's something you can and should try at home. Now, I think I've got some questions here. What is the most significant thing, I think Sanira wants to say, at speaking module? Well, Sanira, do you remember the 4 criteria? These 4 criteria are the most important thing. So I hope you remember the 4 criteria. If not, I do not mind repeating these at all. I'm sure your friends, all the other candidates on tonight's show will help me remember. Number 1, fluency and accuracy, right? Then we talked about, any ideas? Vocabulary, then grammar and pronunciation. So these are the 4 important things for the speaking test. Absolutely, yes. When you say a lot, the word a lot stresses me a lot, actually. As long as it sounds natural, as long as what you say makes sense, that's fine. No, there is no difference between the parts in terms of assessment. You're very welcome, guys. No worries. And does the candidate's accent affect the score? A big no. As long as you speak at a natural speed, as long as the examiner understands you, you should be fine. Don't worry about it. And question 3, can candidates ask clarification questions during the IELTS speaking test? You can't imagine how many times I have received this question. I understand your concerns. I understand how you feel. I'm with students every single day of my life. And that's why I definitely said this question must go on the presentation. Now, good news, ladies and gentlemen. In part 1, in part 2, and in part 3, you may ask clarification questions. Actually, to be more precise, you can ask 1 clarification question per section. It means you can ask the examiner to paraphrase the question once in part 1, once in part 2, and once in part 3 if necessary. All right? And then let's move on, please. The listening section. Again, I will start with the facts and figures about the listening test. Olga's question was about writing, as far as I remember. I might be wrong, correct me if I am, and we will be answering it in the writing section. And go on, please. Thank you very much. Let me see. Oh, right. Is it about oh, right. It's about the formal style of speaking. Exactly. Yeah. I've seen this question, actually. I'm sorry. I don't know why I skipped. So, yes. This is an English exam. And although you may use some friendly words, everyday words, I mean, it doesn't have to be in an academic style, but remember, this is an English exam and it's an academic exam. I don't want you to take risks. I don't want you to face inappropriacies. Be as formal as possible. And I suggest you stick to formal and appropriate vocabulary as well. And now, let's see. Again, I will review the basics of the listening test here. The listening test is designed to assess your ability and to understand, actually, the spoken English. And the test includes 40 questions spread over 4 sections in half an hour, plus 10 minutes transfer time. I mean, the recordings take half an hour and you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers at the end of the listening test. And bad news is you will hear each recording once only. And let's move on. And actually, as I said, you will be hearing each recording once only. I want to continue with a piece of good news. Answers appear in order, ladies and gentlemen. You don't need to go back and forth to find the correct answers to your questions. But so it's like one bad news, one good, and now one more bad. The recordings get harder as you progress through the test. So it means part 1 is the easiest. Part 2 will be a little more difficult. Part 3 will be a little more difficult. And part 4 is the hardest. Now, hi from Talcott. Using phrasal verbs, proverbs, and idioms are highly valued rather than slang. Absolutely. Slangs. Guys, you should avoid slang totally. And so here's a YouTube question. What level is required to start learning in English? I mean, what level is required to start studying for IELTS? I think the question really means. And I would say it depends on what band you are planning to get, you are planning to achieve. Since most of the candidates, of the participants tonight, said they want to achieve 6 and above. To get 6, I think you should be low upper intermediate and upper intermediate. Yeah. What about have to, gonna? Well, Talcott, this is interesting because when you are speaking, I'm gonna do this. I have to do this. I was gonna go, but I mean, these things are okay while you're speaking, but do not write these in your writings. So in the speaking section, they're okay. All right. And I was saying the recordings get harder as you progress through the test in the listening test. But the answers, right, I gave you a piece of good news as well, but the answers appear in order. It means you don't have to go back and forth to find the correct answers. And remember, variety of task types are used, variety of question types are used. Please familiarize yourself with different task types, question types, I mean, before you actually take the test. Remember, IELTS listening test is very user-friendly, very candidate-friendly. You are given time to read the questions ahead of the recordings. And you are again given time to check your answers after each recording. This is very, very good. All right, so here's a question. If I couldn't catch clear answer at listening section, so I write cars, but the real answer is car. Yes. If you write a plural version of the word where the singular is the correct answer or the singular fits the question better, your answer will be considered incorrect. No. And one more user says, so we don't transfer questions right after each section. No, no, no. You will be transferring all the answers at the very end of the test altogether. And you're very welcome. And let's see, I was saying that there is time to read the questions ahead of the recordings, and there is time to check your answers before the recording for the next section starts. Super candidate friendly. Remember, these extra times are very important, very valuable. It is vital to use these times efficiently. You can analyze and predict what you will be searching for. And since you're also given time to check your answers after each recording, you can check the spelling, and you can go back and review all your answers. And at the end of the test, you will be transferring your answers, so you have plenty of time to get organized. Now, let's move on to the next slide, please. So Billy says we have to write down our answers, then transfer. Of course. You have to write them in the question booklet, everything. However, since we care about, what the answer sheet says, you can, while you're answering the questions, all you need to do is to focus on the recording and find the correct answers to these questions. Don't worry about spelling. Don't worry about capitalization yet. But as you transfer your answers, capitalization matters. Spelling matters. These are very important. No, there will be no extra sheets of paper as draft, because you don't need a draft. There will be question booklets, and you will hear the recordings, and you will write the answers to the questions on the question booklet. Then you will transfer these answers. That's all. There are no headphones. All the candidates will hear the recordings at the very same time, all together. Now, wait for your questions. Okay, now let me go forward. But good questions have come, but hold those thoughts. Okay. And let's see. I was saying, right, guys, as you were trying to answer the questions, look for keywords. And actually, no, as you are reading the questions ahead of the recording, I think you should look for keywords, underline or circle them when you first look at the questions. Make sure you understand what type of answers are needed when you're given time to read the questions. I mean, is it a number? Is it a day, a name, an adjective you're going to catch? Try to predict as much as you can. And beware of distractors. Just because you hear something for the first time, it doesn't mean that that is the correct answer. When you're listening to the speaker might go back and reverse the answer. Please be aware of that too. I think it is important to remind you that there are no penalties for wrong answers. So do attempt all the questions. Do answer all the questions. In other words, do not leave any blank answers. You might be super lucky and your answer might be correct. Who knows? Now, let me go at the questions. I will have my own recorder. No, you will not have your own recorder. Everyone will hear the recording at the same time. There will be a central system. What if the candidate has a problem with different dialects? Well, dialect is a very strong word. There will be no dialects. There might be different accents though. Accents are yes, but no dialects. And as I always suggest my students that they aim for different accents when they are studying. Do not expect to hear British accent only. You might hear American, Australian, and sometimes foreign accents as well. And then, can we write all in capitals, Denise? Very cunning of you. But yes, you can. Now, Daver says no to Denise, but yeah, what a surprise to you, Daver. If you want to write all your answers in capitals in the listening section, you may, if you want to. Not in writing, of course. I'm strictly talking about the listening. And then, let me see. Let's go for the next slide, please. Okay, right. I got, let me see. So how can candidates improve their listening skills? Ladies and gentlemen, as I've just said earlier, it is extremely important to practice to a wide range of authentic resources. That might include not only TV series, but also podcasts, educational videos, lectures, and documentaries. Remember, aiming for different materials with different accents. That's the deal. I'm afraid there is no substitute for good practice. Whatever you listen to, it is good practice. If you have a smartphone or a tablet, you may download many free British Council applications. Learn English podcasts are great. Audio and video are great. These are very popular apps, by the way. And you may find lots of useful stuff on learnenglish.britishcouncil.org and take English. Take English. What is that? Take IELTS.britishcouncil.org. Please benefit from these websites as much as you can. And number 2, how will candidates hear the recordings? Yes, remember, I knew this was going to come. And that's why I put it here. All recordings will be heard by all the candidates at the same time, not individually. And 3, oops, the chat box disappeared. Unbelievable. Where did that go? Wait. Yeah, it's sometimes, oh, right, okay. Found it. How can I survive without your chats? I need to be following you very carefully. Alton H, thank you. Eugene, but found it. Didn't even need that combination, really. Oh, yeah. My Mac is playing games with me. Right. And then where was I? Right. Are spelling and capitalization important in the IELTS test? Oh, you bet. They are very important. If you misspell a word, you will lose the full question, I'm afraid. So please be careful. Would there be, Veronica says, would there be the same recording for everyone? Of course. Yeah. You will not have, it's not an individual thing. You will be having the very same exam. Could you write here the webs? Oh, Rifat, sure, don't worry. I will show you a slide on IELTS materials exclusively. I will be repeating them later. No worries. Now, I think that's the end of the listening frequently asked questions. We can move on to reading. I'm also looking at my notes. Is there anything else I would like to say? I think I've covered everything. Yeah. And then, guys, now the reading module. Again, an overview. The reading test includes 40 questions spread over 3 articles. You got 1 hour, 60 minutes, in other words, to answer the questions. Unlike the listening test, now very important, look, it's underlined as you see. Unlike the listening test, you will not be given extra time to transfer your answers. So you have to transfer your answers as you answer the questions. This is a technique that you should work on, something that you should remind yourself. And your answers must again be written in pencil only, and they must be marked on the answer sheet. What matters, what we are going to grade is on the answer sheet, not the question booklets. Next slide, please. Right. So, guys, you can go through these items on the slide. And from my notes, I'm going to read something. Well, look what it says. The first item on the list. Topics are interesting, appropriate, and accessible for non-experts. Well, when I say this, my students might be doubtful. But, let me give you this example. This is taken from Cambridge IELTS Past Papers, Book 8, I believe, Test 1, Reading Text 1. It's called Chronicle of Timekeeping. And I just love this text. It talks about how people measure time throughout history, how the way they measure time changed after the invention of the artificial light and after the advent of the mechanical clock. So I bet most of you tonight would be interested in reading this article in your daily lives, maybe in your native language, but definitely you would enjoy it. So my point is, if you read periodicals such as newspapers, magazines, and journals, the articles you see will be very similar to what you will be reading in IELTS. As you know, you have 1 hour to read 3 articles and then answer 40 questions. Now let's do the maths. 20 minutes per text. You have to organize your time very well. Do not forget to mark your answers on your answer sheet as you proceed through the test, because there is no extra time for you at the end of the test, as you know. And we'll be talking about some skills in a minute. Because 20 minutes per text, so basically around 900 words, you need to read. Right. You need to read 900 words in 20 minutes, and within the same time, you need to be answering some questions. Well, challenging, all right, I think. So we'll be talking about some techniques, and let me look at some questions. Could you be a bit more distant from your microphone? Oh, I'm almost eating it, aren't I? Okay, I will, Shafak, definitely. And scientific article. It's not scientific, but Alex, it can be about science. Yeah, let me correct it like that. You're very welcome, Shafak. I don't want to be causing strain on your ears. Of course, I would be listening to what you say. Okay, true, false, not given. Yes, no, not given. You're not alone. Oh, yes. Many German exams. Definitely, Karen. I agree with you. And ladies and gentlemen, next slide, please. Now, let's get through the reading tips. I'm looking through over the items to make a mini plan in my head. Right. Okay. Now, before you take the test, guys, I believe you need to familiarize yourself with different task types. You should also practice reading skills. And here I'm talking about two skills in particular: skimming and scanning. Since you've got only 20 minutes per text, you do not have time to read the text intensively, thoroughly. So, your skimming and scanning skills will help you get through the test. Skimming means, let's define these as well. Skimming means looking over an article or paragraph to identify the key themes or general ideas. This includes paying attention to title, subtitles, keywords, and topic sentences as well. I suggest you read. You might try this and see if it works. I suggest you read the title first, then the subtitles if there are any, and then the first and the last sentence of each paragraph. Make notes around the article as you do this. Then read with specific purpose. Read the questions carefully and be clear about what you're looking for. And then scanning comes. Scanning is when you're looking for specific information. After you read the questions, start scanning the text for answers, benefiting from your notes. And like the listening test, there are no penalties for wrong answers. So once again, I suggest you attempt all the questions, guys. And synonyms: don't leave any blank answers, no time for transfer, skimming and scanning, test covered. And now these are some of the most frequently asked reading questions. Number one, how can candidates improve their reading skills? And every time I get this question, I wish I did have a magic wand. However, I don't. But I know how you can improve your reading skills. Read as much as you can. I know you won't like this answer, but read newspapers, magazines, journals. The more variety, the better, obviously. I advise my students to read 2 articles on environmental issues, 2 articles on technology, and 2 articles of their own choice every week. If you read 6 to 8 articles every week, you will see how much you improve in such a short time. It says, Talgat says, what about difference in reading of some words like often, can't, so on, with option highly valued? Well, Talgat, no IELTS examiner will be grading you on your accent. American people, even teachers sometimes. I have worked at many American colleges, and all the teachers, including myself, we have taken IELTS to understand our students. And I have had many American friends who have scored 9 many times over and over again. So the way you pronounce can't, whether you say can't or can't, often or often, it does not matter at all. And here's a YouTube question. Is the answer going to be in the article? Should we? Oh, wow. Yes. Very good question, actually. My wonderful colleagues, thank you for forwarding me this message. I've got this question as well. Maybe I could add this question to the frequently asked questions. Guys, in the reading and listening parts of the test, we are looking for specific words. You are not supposed to paraphrase. I think my answer was clear. And Veronica, in the listening test, the questions are in order. However, they're not in the reading test. Now, Hakuran, this is a very, recent and important question. Content-wise, I mean exam question-wise. IELTS academic, the regular IELTS, and the IELTS UKVI are exactly the same thing. The UKVI, a version of the IELTS, is more secure. The whole exam is recorded through cameras. That is the only difference. Nothing else. Content-wise, the exam is exactly the same. And then I was talking about the importance of reading articles, as I always do. And can candidates use colored pens or pencils during the IELTS reading test? No, you're allowed to use your pencil only, no colored pens or pencils, I'm afraid. And the last question is, how can candidates skim and scan efficiently? I think I have spoken about this in detail. I mean, how to skim, read the first and the last sentence of each paragraph and move on, and time yourself while you're doing this at home. In my lessons, I always time my students to encourage them to do this. And on your own, with your pencil in your hand, reading, not even reading it out loud, underlining the first and last sentence of each paragraph. If the paragraph is very long, maybe glancing through the middle and then moving on would not take more than 3 minutes. It doesn't. So you can do this. Some of my students, however, they say, no, we would like to look at the questions first and then start skimming, scanning. We want to skip the skimming part of the exam. Well, it's up to you, but try this before you actually take the exam and see which one works better for you. And that is the end. Let's talk about the writing, guys. Now, since most of you had some problems, or most of you found this the most challenging part of the exam, let's get focused, shall we? Here we are. Well, can we have eraser in the rules? You can take an eraser with you. Yeah. Right. Academic and general training writing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the writing test is divided into 2 parts, and you're expected to answer both of these questions in 1 hour. They are not selective, they're not optional. You are answering both tasks. Task 1 differs depending on the module you are taking. In the academic module, for instance, you need to analyze a diagram. Applicants should identify 2 to 4, depending on the number of words, obviously, 2 to 4 main significant points in each diagram and describe what they see. You may need to make comparison between data too, if there's more than one, obviously. In the general training, however, there is a letter writing of at least 150 words. The same word count applies to academic module task 1 too. So, in task 1, for both academic and general test takers, you need to write at least 150 words. And it is very important that you hit the word count. If not, you will lose points. And for academic and general training task 2, candidates are expected to write at least 250 words. And this should be written in the form of an essay. At least 4 paragraphs. An introduction paragraph, 2 body paragraphs where you develop your ideas, and a conclusion paragraph. And here's a tip for all of you guys. Task 2 contributes twice as much to the overall writing score. So especially if you're targeting high scores, you need to do task 2 very well. To master, in a nutshell, to master task 1 and task 2, make sure you address to all parts of the question. And in task 2, especially, you need to develop your ideas and support them with examples. And let's move on, please. If someone passed the exam academic, but somewhere it is required general, is a retake required? Well, it depends on the institution. It depends on where you're applying to, Karen. Most immigration offices, most banks, because in some countries, bank workers need to take this exam too. If they take the if they require the general training and the candidate has taken the academic, they would happily accept. But again, double check with the receiving organization because it might differ. So, guys, you're very welcome, Karen. How do we assess your writing? Now, guys, there are 4 criteria again. Number 1, task achievement for task 1 and task response for task 2. Cohesion and coherence, vocabulary, and grammar range and accuracy. These are the 4 criteria how we evaluate your writing work. Now, 1, 3, and 4 are pretty straightforward, but I would like to talk about the second item, cohesion and coherence. Now, cohesion and coherence means that your essay is logically organized and has a clear structure with an introduction. Remember, that's what I've said earlier, with an introduction, at least 2 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. Your essay should be divided into paragraphs, with each paragraph having a clear central idea. Body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2 should be talking about different ideas. Now, this is a very common mistake. When I read IELTS essays, task 2 essays, there is one idea in the first body paragraph and it is carried over to the second one. The same thing is rewritten. The same thing is repeated. Please avoid this mistake and make sure you have 2 different ideas. They might both agree with the statement. They might both disagree with the statement given in the question. It doesn't matter whether they agree or disagree. But what I'm talking about is they should be talking. They should be discussing 2 different aspects of the same thing. But make sure you have different ideas and support these different ideas with, of course, different examples. Right, let's move on, please. Okay, some more tips. Now, here's a list for you. Plan before starting is a good idea. Write legibly is a good idea. If we can't read, we can't grade it. So it will not be taken into consideration if we can't understand what you're writing. And cross out or erase clearly. You don't need to erase everything you want to, if you want to erase something, you don't have to. You can cross it out neatly and go on if you would like to, if you don't want to lose time. Here, you look at these things, and I would like to mention something. I would like to introduce something, actually. The concept of power writing, P-O-W-E-R. Power, P for plan, O for organizing, W for writing, E for evaluating, and R for revising. So plan, organize, write, evaluate, and revise. This could be a map for you. Analyze the question first. Identify the different parts of the question. What aspects you will be approaching the question. Clarify the specific topic. Understand the complete requirements. By doing these, I bet you will produce great work. And word count is definitely important, guys. If you think it will be such a waste of time to count your words one by one in the actual exam, I suggest you download the Task 1 answer sheet, Task 1 writing answer sheet, and Task 2 writing answer sheet from the internet, from the British Council's website. This is the PDF version of the actual writing paper. And you will get exactly the same dotted IELTS paper, IELTS answer sheet in the exam. Print, I don't know, 10, 20, and practice your writing on this paper. And then you would know how many lines 150 words make. How many lines 250 words make. Yeah, the PDF versions are available, Alex. If you type British Council IELTS writing answer sheet, I'm sure it will come up. All my colleagues might also share with you. I don't know if they have it on hand, but we might in a bit. So in order to avoid counting words in the exam, this might be a good idea, I think. And then one of you guys asked to see a sample question. And of course, I do have one. It will be coming shortly. Let's see. Maybe on the next slide. Oh, yes, because, yeah, I don't know the slides here. Karen, these might be criminal justice. Well, I can't say no. Something related to it might come. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, by the way. And why don't I share also something? Guys, wait. Wait. Let me see. I want to share this with you. Let me move the chat here. And wait. Answer sheet. I think it's coming. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Here we are. And I'm to all panelists and attendees. Ladies and gentlemen, here is my first share. And my second share is on its way. Right there. Here we go. Let me click and see if it works. Oh, perfect. It does work. Great. And close. You're very welcome. Maybe I should save these and share. Yeah, absolutely, guys. They work, right? So these are the official. Perfect. Great. I'm glad they do. I'm glad they do. So when you're practicing, use these paper. Good idea there. And so here we are. Right. Sample question. I closed the links and now I'm looking at my perfect presentation. Sample IELTS writing task. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Write about the following topic. Countries are becoming more and more similar because people are able to buy the same products everywhere in the world. Do you think this is a positive or negative development? Give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge or experience. Write at least 250 words. Whew, there we are. Could you please repeat how to count words better? You told something about this. Well, Alex, I said, when you practice on these sheets, you would know how many lines 150 words makes in your own handwriting. And how many lines 250 words make in your own handwriting. So if you say, if you practice these and 150 words make 15 lines, so in the exam, if you write 16, 17 lines, you're safe. You don't need to go and go and count all the words. And the same thing for task 2. Right. And guys, now what are we doing for this? Remember, a formal essay style has to be followed. An introduction, 2 body paragraphs, and a conclusion are expected. For this question, look, you don't need to have personal first-hand experience. If you have heard something, you may refer to those. That's perfectly fine. And as long as you mention relevant things, you are safe. Are articles a and the, prepositions on, off, in, counted as words? Yes, they are. Articles are words. Off, in, on, off, either with one F or double F. They're all words. Yes. And let me see. Let's go on the next slide, please. Now, how can candidates improve their writing skills? Guys, first, you should be reading good model answers. There are very good model answers on the British Council website, Task 1 model answers and Task 2 model answers. So please look at these first. After seeing these tasks, then you would start producing good work. Describe task 1 and task 2 essay. We've just done this, so I'm skipping these two questions. And does spelling count in the IELTS writing test? Yes, yes, yes. Now, Deniz, I'm not going to encourage you to lie publicly, but I can say you can use your imagination. Message received, I hope. American spelling is okay as well, yeah. But, oh, great. Right after that. So, American spelling is okay, but it has to be consistent. If you spell harbor, say, as HARBOR in one sentence, and in the second one, if you spell it with a U, then the person reading your essay would say, so is this a mistake? Why is the candidate inconsistent? If you want to stick to the American spelling, do so. If you want to stick to the British spelling, do so. It doesn't matter which one, but it has to be one. And let's see. Does spelling, oh yes, I've answered that question. That's all. Let's move on. Oh, test day do's and don'ts. Almost the end of the presentation. Now, guys, I'm going to start with a very basic thing. First, check the details of your exam. Make sure you take notes of the exam center, of the address, and the date. So this is the first thing to say. And then now let's move on. And then arrive in good time. Make sure you have the right ID with you. If you registered the exam with your national ID, take it with you. If you register the exam with your passport, take it with you. And also, I'm afraid your super smart gadgets and super smartphones aren't coming into the exam room with you. They're staying at home and waiting for you. And please remember to follow instructions very, very carefully. IELTS is not only a test of English, but we test your understanding of English instructions as well. That is also very important. Now, I've got a question here. As I understand, in the academic version, task 1, there may be a process. What kind of task is it? How much does it differ from description? Well, it differs greatly, actually, Alex. It's a process making of anything. Today, one of the candidates actually reminded me of a question, some process, I can't remember now, but just see sample answers. That would be better for you, I think. Because now I don't have any examples with me, any samples with me, it would be hard to talk about it right now. Let's move on, please. Now the preparation materials. Right. Okay, guys, when you register your IELTS exam through the British Council, you would have around 30 hours of free preparation materials. And most of the candidates don't know about this. And I think this is extremely important. So please use and benefit from these materials. I think it's cool. And besides this, You can also find lots of stuff on britishcouncil.org/take IELTS and learnenglish.britishcouncil.org. Now, the mobile applications, one of you guys asked me to repeat. Now, IELTS Word Power is exclusively dedicated to IELTS, and I think it's so good. I use it in my lessons as well. Plus, the ones that I mentioned, was audio. Now I'm going to be writing. Oops, I was writing to British Council privately. Nope, all panelists and attendees. Audio and video. This is the name of the application. It's free and it's IELTS-like materials. And the other one was Great Videos. Yeah. My mobile phone is not near me right now. I have all the applications downloaded. Now, there's a YouTube question. When time is limited in IELTS? Oops. The YouTube question, I cannot understand, I'm sure. What, Yodo, when time is limited in IELTS? I think I understand. Well, I'm an expert. After many years of teaching. Now, then I'm also reading another question, guys. That's why I slowed down. How much time do we need to study to score a good grade? I mean having IELTS in April because right. Well, Billis, being a nerd, that's not bad. And it depends on your level. I think if you're going to take IELTS in April, it can be a good idea to start preparation now. Why not? To download stuff from britishcouncil.org/take IELTS and see some sample questions and work on Road to IELTS e-learning stuff and make sure you feel very confident till then. I don't see it as a problem. So, is it possible to finish earlier and go back to reading? No, it's not. You have restricted time with each test. And there was one, okay, the YouTube question. Yes, I was planning to answer that. So I suggest, guys, you definitely finish all the materials on Road to IELTS e-learning before you take the test. I think it's a very good idea. So go for that. And also, let me think. The time is limited. Your recommendation, practice then. Yeah, I think that's my answer. How are our works being collected? What do you mean by our works, Veronica? Do you mean the test papers, the question booklets? Right, okay. Oibek says, can I start from task 2? Well, no, Oibek, I understand you perfectly. It depends. If you say, Seville, I'm very good at time management, I will not extend my 40 minutes time while I'm writing task 2. You can start from task 2. But I always suggest starting from task 1 because it's fairly easier and shorter compared to task 2. And remember, task 2 contributes twice as much. So I think it might be a good idea to start from task 1, get it out of the way, and then dedicate yourself to task 2. But again, it depends on you. Try it a few times. If you can manage in an hour, why not, Oibek? It depends on you, basically. Now, Eugene says, I've been working with a few students to improve their IELTS score. What advice would you give to improve student answers for topics like globalization? I make my own materials, but sometimes lesson plans takes too much of my time. Well, for IELTS, there are teacher materials too. I think I can share some with you, Eugene. Let me see. Do I have it here? Um, oh, I hope I have it here. Yes, IELTS teaching resources. Now, Eugene, why don't you have a look at here and see if you find anything useful? And then let me see. Right. I understand every single word you say here. So do you think I'm good enough for listening part? Well, Belize, absolutely. Yeah. But remember, Belize, in IELTS, task in IELTS listening, part 3 and part 4 are very academic. On tonight's show, I'm talking about an exam and I'm talking about them, in a very brief, basic level. In part 3 and part 4 in the IELTS listening, they will be talking about scientific things. So that's why I suggest you should listen to podcasts, lectures, and oh, yes, Karen, in the general training, the listening test is the same. Remember? That's why. Exactly, darling. So the listening and the speaking are in the same format. The writing and reading parts differ. So, oh, yes, I'm glad you got that here. And yeah, so these are the most important things, guys. Right. Now, having shared that with Eugene, I'll go back to my presentation. Yes, I believe that is the end of my presentation. Is that the last slide? Oh, yes, that's my thank you slide. But as the screen says thank you, I will be staying here for a little bit to make sure everyone is perfectly fine and all the questions are answered. Now, academic doesn't mean different scopes of science. What if? No, 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 no. I mean the topics in the listening and the reading texts might include might talk about scientific issues. That's what I mean. No, no, you're not allowed to leave the room during the test. Akarka, there is the IELTS registration is very useful friendly. I think you can manage without the videos. But if you have any questions, you can always contact the British Council in your country and they would help you. Annie, I'm so glad that you found the webinar useful. Exactly. Part 4 is from part of research, articles, and scientific issues. Absolutely. Well, I will not go back to speaking part 3, but tomorrow you'll get a copy of this recording. You can listen to me as many times as you like. There will be a digital clock in the room, either a digital or just a regular clock, but there will be a clock in the room and you can follow the time on that. Talga, thank you for joining. And wait, what sheets do you mean? I don't have your name, so that's why I cannot address you by your name. It just says user here. Could you elaborate a bit more on the actual sheets that we get? I'm confused. We will be able to write on both. One will be assessed and the other one will not. Oh, do you mean, okay, you will have a question booklet first. All the questions will be in that. And at the end, there will be answer sheets. And you will be using these answer sheets. For the listening and the reading. For writing, I've sent you, as I've shared today, you will have dotted lined paper and you will be writing your essays, your articles there. Sanira, you can wear whatever you like as long as you're comfortable in it. You transfer your answers from the question pages to the answer sheet. Good, 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 good. When is the next webinar? Check it on the system. I did have it somewhere written, but I don't have my schedule with me right now. What if I missed writing task number 2? Well, you would get a very low score on writing then, Karen. You will not be dismissed. You would still get your score in reading, listening, and speaking, but your writing score would be very low. If you're going to use IELTS for academic purposes, many institutions do not accept scores lower than 5. But if you're going to use it for another purpose, you should ask the receiving organization again. There will be no certificates for the participation, guys. My name is Seville, and I was here to guide you through the basic tips in the IELTS exam. That's all about it. No certification. It's not a course to be repeated. If you're not sure what type of test you need to take, then you should discuss it with the receiving organization, or you should think about why you are actually taking IELTS. If you're going to go to a master course, definitely academic. If not, you should know. Well, Akarka, learn some samples of speaking answers. I wouldn't put it that way, but before you take the exam, I think it is a good idea to think about your favorite holiday spot, to think about a museum you have visited, whether you liked it or not, to think of a good restaurant and how to describe it. Think of a good friend and how to describe him, her, or how to describe your house, I'm thinking of speaking exam topics, how much you use technology in your life. What would you do without technology? I mean, there are, certain things that you should think about. If you think with the exam stress, you may not be as productive, as fluent as you would normally be, think about these things, and I think that will be good. Lovely. All right, guys. What usually causes a penalty? A blank answer? I mean, a blank answer means an incorrect answer, technically. When I said penalty, I mean, you know, three mistakes, take a one a correct answer, or four mistakes, take away one correct answer, that kind of thing. We don't have any penalties. An incorrect answer would not affect any other correct answers, basically. So an incorrect answer and a blank answer are technically the same thing. No, Dover, you are taking the whole exam again, not the writing section individually. If we are not satisfied with the band, how can we repeat the exam? Well, you would start the process again. You would pay for the exam, you would register, and you will take it again. That's all. Simple as that. Is that all right? I hope my answer was good enough. No, Karen, there's no blacklist. You can take the IELTS 100 times if you wish. And you can still take the best score out of the 100 and apply to wherever you would like to apply to. Oh, yes, the German education system. I know. Wow. For up to 2 years. Look, I've forgotten about that. Yeah. Yeah, I remember something like that. Lovely. All right, guys. I really enjoyed these 1.5 hours with you. There were some very, very good questions, and there were some good questions too. And I wish all of you the best of luck. For those teachers, fellow friends of mine who were also here, I hope it was helpful for you two guys. Good luck with your students and good luck with your studies. And for the candidates, for the rest, I hope the webinar was useful to you. And I do run two other webinars, one exclusively on reading and writing, and one exclusively on listening and speaking. Please follow these on the website, on the British Council websites. I delve into more details about reading, writing, and listening, speaking. But for many of you, I think this webinar was also useful. That makes me very happy. And I wish all of you a great evening. Bye-bye.